Hello everyone, and thank you for taking the time to review the real estate market analysis for Almaden, California for December of 2009. My name is Robert Whitelaw, and I'm a licensed real estate broker in the state of California. I'm also a member of the National Association of Realtors and a certified E-Pro. I'm also the president and CEO of Whitelaw & Sons Real Estate Services, serving all of Silicon Valley. Now let's to get in contact with me. There's a variety of ways to do that. You can find me at www.soldbyrobert.com. You can also email me directly at robert@soldbyrobert.com. If you prefer to call me on the phone, just dial 408-852-0525. And if you'd like to use AOL Instant Messenger, Google Talk, or Yahoo IM to reach out and talk, you can use the screen name The Rebel Broker. And if you're a Skype user, the screen name is Rebel Broker. Now, referrals are always appreciated. If you or anyone you know is interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate in the Silicon Valley area, please feel free to get in touch with me. I'd be happy to help in any way I can. But even if you're not interested in real estate in the areas that I directly serve, I can help find the perfect agent for you no matter where you are in the United States. So just get in contact using any of the ways outlined above. We can talk a little bit about what your needs are, and then I can start the search for the agent who can best take care of your needs. Now let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at the supply and demand numbers. We'll start off with our inventory numbers for Almaden Valley. We can see these have been on the decline. We had our first big jump in 2008. Excuse me. But we've actually seen sort of a recovery. So the amount of time that Almaden Valley has really spent, even slightly in a down market, has been much shorter than other areas here in Silicon Valley. Now, inventory, when compared to last year, the same month last year, December, is down 31.71%. That's 26 fewer homes added to the market in December of 2009 than December of 2008. That gave us a grand total of 56 homes on the market in Almaden Valley. If we take a look at the total number of homes listed, we can see that this has gone in the other direction. While we'd like to see this staying stable, it's actually gone up quite a bit. That's actually increased 73.33%. That's 11 more homes listed this year in December at the same time last year for a grand total of 26 homes listed. What's interesting to note is that despite the fact we've seen this big increase in listings, we've still seen a decrease in inventory when compared to the same time last year. So what we'll take a look here and see why that is, and look at these sales numbers. Now, sales are up 75% when compared to the same time last year. Excuse me, that's 12 more homes sold in December of 2009 than December of 2008. That gave us a grand total of 28 homes sold. So you can see that despite the fact we've seen a dramatic increase in listings. I mean, look at that. That's the highest number of listings going all the way back to 2004. The last time that number was beat was 2003. And that's really the only time in the last 10 years that we've seen a higher number. Despite all that, we've seen a big increase in sales. Inventory has maintained a low maintained a low level. Now, what this has contributed to is a pretty amazing ratio between the homes that are selling and the homes that are in inventory. Now, that stands at 2 right now, which is astonishingly low. In other words, we only have 2 months worth of inventory on hand in Almaden Valley. If you're a seller, think of that as a competition number. For every home that sells, there's 2 on the market. So right now, it's a seller's market in Almaden Valley, at least according to these numbers. Buyers have to move quickly to get homes that they want. We'll see what kind of an effect that's having on sales price. But now when we look at last month's ratio, it was at 3.18. The county ratio was at 2.8, and last month for the county it was the county ratio for this month for December is 2.8. Last month for the county it was 3.31. Okay, now let's take a look at the numbers. Going straight back chronologically now, we're not just looking year to year. We're looking straight back to July of 2008. We can see the inventory number trend is pretty clear to see. If we look at December of this year, December of last year, the same sort of trend. A little bit of a steeper decline, though, in those inventory numbers. And then, of course, we've got the sort of the normalizing bar there to take out seasonal influences, and we can see that overall we really are seeing a decline in inventory. From November to December, inventory dropped 20%, so we had 14 fewer homes on the market in December than in November. If we look at those listing numbers, we can see that that's actually relatively flat compared to November. We had a 4% increase. One home was listed above last month. In other words, we only had one more listing this month than last month. So not a substantial increase, really relatively flat. If we look at November, December of last year, it's a little bit uncharacteristic. We usually saw a decrease right through into December, and that is normal. That would be a normal market trend. I'm not sure what's going on there. I don't know if this indicates that we may see an increase in just in general folks wanting to get out of their homes in this market. Maybe they're seeing that Almaden Valley has been very resistant to the market and thinking this may be their time to get out. It's hard to really figure out what is behind that number. But we'll see how things pan out in the first quarter of 2010 to see how these things wash out. Now let's take a look at the sales. Sales are actually up in December. We usually do see a little bit of a boost in December. And those are sales that were typically started in October and November. So they went into contract in October and November and didn't close till December. And you usually get a little boost there. For some folks, it's because they just really want to make sure it happens before the end of the year. For other folks, it just worked out that way. But that's usually the last big boost you see before we start to see the decline that we usually see in wintertime. And that's pretty much what we saw this year. Sales were actually up 27.27% compared to November. That was 6 more homes sold in December than in November. Now let's take a look at the short sale and foreclosure data. Almaden Valley still showing very healthy performance. 7% of the homes that sold were short sale properties. 14% were foreclosures. 79% were conventional. Now, if we look at last month, we can see that really on par, relatively stable performance. 9% last month were short sales. 14% were foreclosures, and 77% were conventional. A grand total of 28 homes sold in Almaden Valley. So that's good performance. We're seeing some areas where much closer to 50% of the homes that are selling are conventional, with the rest of it made up in short sales and foreclosures. So there's no shocking news here. I don't think there's anything here that we need to worry about as far as a dramatic growth in short sale and foreclosure properties. But remember, this Almaden Valley has been one of those areas that has been amazingly resistant to short sales and foreclosures in the past. Really, it was just within the last few months that we saw an increase in these numbers at all. It was hovering right in the mid-80s for a long time, and we just recently saw these numbers start to head into the 70% for the conventional sales. Now let's take a look at the all-important home price numbers. We can see that we've actually gotten a little bit of a boost here compared to last year. We actually saw relatively little decline when the market turned down. 2006 was really the last big peak, and then things sort of dropped off from there. Now, while a lot of folks may be upset by the amount that dropped off from 2006 to 2007, if you look at what happened in the county in general, that's actually an extremely mild decline. Now, the average home price was up 4.38% from 2008 to 2009 for the month of December. That was a $41,401 price change, and the average home price was $985,957. Now, the median home price, interesting, this actually went down, was declined by 1.88%. That's a $17,500 decline. Median price was $915,000. And I think what this tells us is that, and this is what's great about seeing both of these numbers, so many folks who report this in the media don't seem to think average and median mean the same thing, and they don't. The median tells us that that's the midway point as far as the number of homes that sold. So in other words, half the homes that sold were above that amount and half the homes that sold were below that amount. And this gives us a better idea of the grouping. So while we can say, yes, the average price went up, what that is telling us, and with its relationship to median price, that's telling us that more homes sold at the higher end. We saw more homes that were much higher priced selling in December of 2009. In reality, the volume of homes actually moved, the larger volume of homes moved below the average price when we compare it to last year. So definitely there's more activity at the lower end, but we are seeing, because the larger number of homes were below that $915,000 mark, but we are seeing some activity, some extremely high-end activity. And we'll see that. I'll be reading off here in a second what those highest priced homes were. And here we go. The highest priced home in Almaden Valley was at 7146 Cahan Drive, and that sold for $1,618,000. Its original list price was, according to the records, $1,699,000, and it was on the market for 110 days. And as I've mentioned before, that's actually not the actual amount it was originally listed for. It was listed in July right at the end of July for July of 2009 for $1,785,000, and was relisted later and lost somehow that link to the original list price. So this person actually took further below their asking price than is reflected by the official numbers. That's why we always have to be a little bit suspicious of official numbers. There's always ways people tweak these things, and usually it doesn't tweak it for better understanding of the information. The lowest single-family residential home in Almaden Valley was at 1310 Addywell Place, and that sold for $762,000. That was owned by a bank. That was a foreclosure property. Original list was $692,010. Days on the market was 12. So that property went very quickly, and notice that it sold for more than the asking price. That's the kind of market we continue to see here in Almaden Valley. Now, the average home price was $396.19. The last month's average price per square foot was $417.21. Now, let's look at the same numbers just going back past months. Now, this is just going back to July of 2008. Average price again was $985,957. From November to December, that number increased 12.41%, or for a dollar amount of $108,880. The median price stood at $915,000 for an increase of 7.39%, a dollar change of $63,000. And as we can see, that number is quite a bit higher than the median. As we looked at before, last month things were closer together. Does this tell us anything? Well, obviously it tells us we are still in a bit of a decline. We've seen a little bit of variation. Wintertime is usually when you start to see those prices go the lowest, and that's what we saw last winter. What's interesting is that we're not seeing it this year. Last year, from November to December, we saw a decline and then a continuing decline in January with a little bit of a boost in February. This month, we didn't get that. We got a bit of a boost in December, and that's probably because of just a couple of homes that sold that were really in the million-plus range. But it'll be interesting to see where we go in January, whether or not we see a decline at this point from month to month. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at days to sell. How many days did it take us to get something sold in Almaden Valley? It was down to 47 days. Days to sell is down 38.96%. That's 30 less days to get a property sold in December of 2009 at the same time last year. Now, to sort of get a better understanding of these numbers, I like to break them down into smaller chunks to see where there might be some interesting clustering on these numbers. Now, the lowest days on market was 1 day. We didn't have any homes that sold before they went onto the multiple listing service. The longest days on market was 329 days, with the next closest being 169 days. So we had some homes that sold extremely quickly and some that were on the market forever. And the difference between those two is the way they were marketed, how they determined what the home should be listed for, all those types of things. What's really going to affect this number is how closely you work with your agent to work out the details and really pay attention to the numbers. Now, to break it down even better here, as I said, there were no homes that sold before they were put into the multiple listing service. 5 homes sold in the first 1 to 7 days. 12 homes sold in 8 to 30 days. 5 homes sold in 31 to 90 days. 4 homes sold in 91 to 180 days. And 1 home sold in over 181 days. So when you break that down, 60% of homes sold in 30 days or less. So over half of the homes on the market that sold in the month of December did so in under 30 days. That's an excellent performance. Last month, that was at 40% of the homes sold in 30 days or less. So what makes the difference? What really defines whether or not you're going to spend 300 days on the market or 30 days on the market? As I said, it has to be your relationship with your real estate person. Now, of course, Almaden Valley is one of the areas I serve, so I encourage anyone who's interested in buying or selling in that area to give me a call. But really, the more important thing is for you to be comfortable with who you're working with. And if for whatever reason you decide I'm not the agent for you, that's fine. But just make sure you're really with someone who understands these numbers, who can look at these numbers, can do a market analysis that gives you the right number. Don't just go with the number that makes you feel the best, because you know what? That's not what's really going to give you the results that you need. If you get that property on the market and it stays on too long, it's costing you money. Every day that you hold a home that you want to sell without selling it, it's costing you money. So just be very aware of that. Make your agent prove everything they're telling you in terms of numbers and statistics. That's what this business is all about. If you don't understand the statistics of how they influence the market, they're not going to be able to make an educated decision with you on what you should be doing with your property. All right, now let's go ahead and take a look at the days to sell just over past months. See what kind of trends we can see. Relatively flat performance according to the according to the averages that we're seeing reflected in that bar going across there. But we are seeing a slight decline in general. Now, as I said, because there's smaller numbers involved in a community like Almaden Valley, there can be months where we see a dramatic jump simply because one home that had been on the market for 300, 400, 500 days sells. Now, that was the case back in January of 2009 where we saw that number jump to 116. And as you see dramatic increases in sales, you'll often see this number jump because you're digging deeper into the inventory of homes. Well, that's not the case with Almaden Valley anymore. Almaden Valley's inventory is exceptionally low. The relationship between sales and inventory is at a point where you're really selling through your entire inventory every couple of months, so you're not getting a huge backlog of properties unless your property is just absolutely priced incorrectly or being marketed incorrectly, as we saw this month with one property that took over 300 days to get sold. So is this a realistic number if you want to calibrate yourself to it as an Almaden Valley resident who's trying to sell your property? If you're trying to get your home sold in Almaden Valley, given that we have 60% of folks getting their home sold in 30 days, if you do not have some sort of interest in your property within 2 weeks, you need to sit down with your agent and figure out why. There is no reason why an Almaden Valley home shouldn't be seeing active interest within 2 weeks of it being listed on the multiple listing service. If it's not happening, you need to figure out, look closely at that multiple listing. Is there a lot of information in there? Is there enough information for people to see what's going on? You're only competing with 2 other homes on the market at any given time right now, so you should be able to get attention. You're part of a very exclusive club. You're a house for sale in Almaden Valley, and there aren't a lot of them. So you should be able to get attention. And if you're not, you need to have a chat with your real estate agent. All right, now the change from November to December. The days to sell decreased 48.35%. That was 44 fewer days to get a home sold in December than in November. Now, here are the locations of the properties, and this is the kind of clustering I've talked about in the past. It's a little bit more normal. It fits in with what we see typically in Almaden Valley. Usually, as you get further southeast into Almaden Valley, you see the volume decrease simply because a lot of folks are worried about their commute. I don't think that's an entirely well-founded idea, but I know a lot of buyers I've shown that area, that's exactly what they want. They'll tell me things like, I don't want to look any further south than Camden Avenue, or I don't want to look any further south than say the Trinidad Elwood area, or down to as far as Singer Park or Bret Harte or what have you. But I'll tell you, those extra few minutes can really get you an amazing home. I noticed that a property way down off McKean has sold. There's beautiful homes down there at some fairly reasonable prices. Schools are great in this area, but we do tend to see the clustering you're seeing here of properties above Camden that are near Fontana Park and the area to the west there as you start to head closer to Los Gatos. So if you're interested in this area, give me a call. I'll be happy to show you properties up in that area and maybe take you just 2-3 minutes deeper in Almaden Valley so you can see some of the amazing properties that this community has to offer. All right, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to these presentations. I hope they are valuable for you. I know it helps me. I walk and talk right through what the market's doing every month for the communities I serve. I won't trouble you to read all of this stuff on how to get in contact with me. Again, just put it up here on the screen in case any of you'd like to jot it down or make a note of it so you can get in contact with me. Again, thanks for listening. Hope it's been a help, and I'll talk to you all next time.